Hello there. So I thought I would do just a quick little demo of the action set so you could really see beforehand if it's what you're looking for. I've had a lot of people asking me questions about it and trying to decide between action sets. So let me tell you a little bit about what it is and what it is not. The way that this action set was designed was based off of my personal hand editing workflow. So what I did is I took all of the things that I normally do to every single image and put them into an action set. So all of the tools that you need to soften skin, to adjust color, the reds, the yellows, the blues, the color casts and color blotchy skin, those kinds of things, as well as add just that a little bit of contrast that almost every image needs. Those are right at your fingertips and they are run right off the bat. And then from there, after that basic edit, I always like to add just a little artistic haze or matte. And so that's just what I do. And then what this allows me to do is keep my images consistent from one to the next within a session, as well as from one session to the next. So that is really what it's all about. What it is not is a action set that gives you a huge variety of different looks and artistic, colorings and adjustments and whatever. That's not what it is. It's not packed full of a bazillion different ideas for you to try and figure out what you want to do to your image. And while all that is fine and good, and I enjoy playing with actions, it is not very practical for streamlining your workflow when you are creating galleries for your clients. That's kind of fun to play with when you are doing fun artistic things on your own images or just for your portfolio. But when you're trying to really bang out a gallery of images for your clients and you want them to look consistent across the board, you need something that is very effective and that does all the things that you need for a basic edit. Of course, you can always go back and add more creative things or crazy color fancy stuff that you want to do with other actions, and sometimes I do use other actions, but I really wanted to create something that you would use for every single image, a workflow that you would use for every single image. It's an essential tool, just like the simple swaddler is, just like your certain props and lighting. So that's really what it is all about. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into how I would use the action. So first thing you do is run the Tbr hand editing workflow, and that includes all your color correctors, your skin softening, your clean pop, your dodge burn layer. And I'll explain more about the dodge burn layer here in a minute. So you're going to start with the baby soft skin and paint it on, and then of course you can adjust the opacity of that layer as needed. So I'm going to use a big white brush and I am going to paint this on. Now it's very subtle, which is what you want when you're editing images. You don't want to make a really dramatic change and show that it's been over edited. So what this does is it uses frequency separation to smooth out the skin but not get rid of the texture of the skin. So that if you ever use frequency separation and not use it in action, it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it over and over and over again. So that's why it's nice to have it in an action. All right, so I'm just getting in here and applying it, avoiding, what you want to do is avoid the details. You don't want to smooth out the details, like the eyebrow hairs and the nose areas and lip creases. I'm going to do it all over her skin, and it will even help kind of take down the hot spots and the highlights, and it'll soften the fuzzy hair that newborns have sometimes and the flaky skin, but it won't get rid of it completely. So they're still going to look like a newborn baby. So I'm evening out skin tone. And it's difficult to even see what's changing, but when I show you the before and after, you'll really be able to see what it does. So I'll just quickly do this. All right, almost ready to show you the before and after here. Alrighty. There we go. All right, so here's the before, and there's after. So really nice, really subtle, but it doesn't look overdone. And then let me show you what the clean pop does. So here's before, here's after. And so basically what it does, it kind of cleans it up. It gives you like, let me go ahead in here and show you. It gives you the pop it for contrast. So that's before, that's after. And then it also does something called clean it up. And that just kind of like makes the skin look creamier. So there's before and there's after. It gives it just a little bit more neutral tone, I guess you might say. So it's not too red or whatever. So that's before and that's after. And if you don't like what it's done to the background, you can always erase it off with a brush. You can add a mask. Here's the clean pop. You can add a mask to it and you can erase it off the background, or you can just individually use these masks. Okay, so then the Don't Color Me Bad, we've got Red Out, Bye Bye Baby Blues, and No More Yellow Bellies. With these babies, there really isn't a whole lot that I need to do to adjust their skin, but I do see she's got a really red foot. So I'm gonna grab my Red Out, and I'm gonna go in here and kind of lower the opacity of that brush so I can paint it on a little bit at a time. And then I'm just going to paint it on with a white brush, get some of the red out. Obviously I did too much there. That's why I do a low opacity brush. You can always erase it, or lower the opacity of that layer as well, but I like to just lower the opacity of the brush personally so I can kind of layer it on, because some areas are going to need more and some are going to need less. So that gets rid of that red. But what I noticed is, and this is typical for darker skin tone babies, the bottoms of their feet are way lighter than the rest of their skin, but you don't want that to be distracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my Dodge Burn layer. I put a Dodge Burn layer in this action set because I use Dodge Burn frequently throughout my edits. And you want to make sure that you're using a Dodge Burn, the tool, on a separate layer so that if you need to make changes or whatever else, you're not affecting your background layer. And the other thing about the Dodge Burn tool is it works best on a gray layer, which is why I've created it this way. So when you do your Dodge Burn, you'll grab your Dodge Burn tool, make sure the opacity is not too high. Usually I don't go above 10. If you're on the skin, I don't go, I stick around 4. But if you're on other areas like the background or eyelashes or whatever, you can raise it accordingly. But what I noticed with skin is you have to kind of be very careful because it can go from okay to really bad in just one click. So having a real low opacity on the exposure. So I have it set to midtones. And now I'm on my Dodge Burn layer and I'm going to burn that foot. And this will darken it up. The nice thing about doing the Dodge Burn on this kind of a layer is, I don't know if you've ever noticed where you've burned skin or anywhere, and it kind of, when you burn it, the colors get really intense and kind of weird, and it burns the color as well. So with the gray layer, rather than burning color so much, it just lightens and darkens. So it's a lot more effective. It doesn't make it look weird. In technical terms, it just doesn't make it look weird. So I'm just going to darken that up a little so it's not quite so bright. And then other than that, it looks good. I can also use my Dodge Burn layer on my background. You see how I've got some wrinkles here. And I can clone, I can do all kinds of things. But when you've got a lot of texture like this blanket, it's difficult to clone or do anything else. So what I'll do is my Dodge Burn layer. So I will use the Dodge to darken. And you see how that was real dramatic? That tells me my exposure is too high. So I'm going to take it down to about 4. I have my tool. If you right click over here, you've got your Dodge tool, your Burn tool, and your sponge tool. You don't need your sponge tool for this. So I have it set to burn, which means darken. And then if I hold down the Alt or Option key, it will automatically switch to Dodge. It doesn't show the picture switching here, but you'll notice if I hold down the Alt key, it lightens. See, if I let go of the Alt key, then it will burn. So what I'm going to do in those wrinkled areas is I'm just going to dodge and burn a little. So I'm going to burn where it's lighter, and I'm going to dodge or lighten where it's darker. Burn where it's lighter, and blend those together. And that will give you, it will minimize the wrinkles or bumps in your background without messing the texture up, if that makes sense, hopefully. And because I'm on that gray layer, it's only lightening and darkening. It's not messing up the color of what I'm doing. All right, so that's why I put that dodge burn layer in there. It's a super great tool. I use it for so many things. And so I have it as a part of my workflow every time. Now back here where the background's a little bit more kind of blurry, then I could probably use my patch tool because you won't notice the details so much. But this rest of this area, I just want to make sure I'm doing that. Dodge burn. Okay, so I'll show you before and after with what I've done with that dodge burn. So here's before. See all those wrinkles? Let me zoom in a little bit. And here's after. So it minimizes those wrinkles without getting rid of the texture. Now I'm just going to go ahead and hop on my background layer and grab the patch tool real quick and just get rid of that. It's not going to show very much because it's pretty blurry in the background. But you see, even just a little bit, you can see how the texture is getting a little funny. But I'm also going to add a haze to my background. I always add a little bit of haze, so I don't worry about it too much. But so you can do that. Same thing over here. Oops, I didn't do it on a duplicate layer. You should always do it on a duplicate layer. Oh well. Okay, but let's just say that let me pull up this other image and show you what the other color correctors do for you. So let me just quickly run that, and then I'll show you how you can use those other color correctors. And you can use them pretty much on anything, but let's take a look. So this image, here's before, here's after with just the clean pop. I haven't added the baby soft skin yet, but I want to show you how the color correctors work. So looking at the red out, it's my favorite. I'm going to have the opacity down to like 20%, and then I'm just going to brush that on. She's got these red spots on her eyelids. It's amazing. So I'm just going to get those out. Can bring up my opacity in some areas because she's got some really red spots right on her eyes. I'm just going to do this super quick so you can get an idea. Okay, so then the Bye Bye Baby Blues. This is one of the reasons why I created it. Sometimes you have purple hands and feet. This is perfect for that. But another reason why I created it is you see these dark circles in her eye sockets and under eyes. That's why one of the reasons I created is to get rid of those. So I've got it at about 20%, big soft brush, and then I'm just going to paint it on those kind of purpley areas and the under eye circles. And again, like I said, this works great for purple hands and feet when the circulation's not great. See how she's kind of got a little purple under her nose? So let me show you before, after. Takes care of that immediately. And then the No More Yellow Bellies, of course, that's great for jaundice babies. I don't know, I can even use it on the background. Like say, see how in the shadows here, the cream cloth is looking a little bit yellow. So I can say I want to adjust my background layer, and that gets rid of the yellow. So there's before, after. It's kind of hard to see. Let me zoom in a little. Before, look right here. After. Okay, so let me go back to this other one. So there's nothing really too yellow or blue on this image. I don't, you know, neither of the babies are jaundice. There's no purple feet or anything like that. But I can use these as color correctors. So for example, I see here that she's got more red. The babies have more red in their legs and in their face than they do in their arms. So if I want to add more red, then what I can do is to get rid of some of the yellow and blue. So I can use the No More Yellow Belly. See how it's a little more yellow in the arms than it is in the legs? So I can just take that and use No More Yellow Bellies, even though they're not necessarily jaundice, but I can see there's more yellow in the skin, then I can just apply that. But then when I did that, it kind of made the skin look a little bit blue. So then I'm gonna go over to the Bye Bye Baby Blues and then just add that on. Okay, so now it's kind of given a warmer look to that skin to match the rest of baby skin. Let me get some of this off. I accidentally went over a little bit. And then I'm gonna lower the opacity of my brush. I'm gonna add a little bit of the No More Yellow Bellies right to this face right up here and get rid of some of the yellow. There's a little bit of yellow there. Oh, no wonder it's not working. I have a black brush. So get rid of a little bit of blue here in the skin. And when you get rid of kind of that blue, let me lower the opacity, it's going to kind of brighten the skin or kind of add a little bit of vibrance and glow to the skin. So you can see that here. Go back to my yellows, get rid of some of the yellow here. So let me show you kind of what that's going to look like here. Give me a second. All right, so before I did those, and then after I did the No More Yellow Bellies, look at the arms. See, it got rid of that yellow green tint, and then this is the Bye Bye Baby Blues, and that just kind of gave it a little bit better of a coloring, so that the coloring in the arms match the rest of the body a little bit more. And okay, so now that I've got my clean basic edit done, I was going to show you how you can use the dodge burn on the background. All right, so I'm just going to click on my dodge burn tool here, and I'm just going to burn the background a little bit. And what that does is that allows me to kind of draw more attention to the subject. I like to have the background a little bit darker than the foreground, so your eyes are more drawn to the subject, makes them kind of pop off the page a little bit more. Not too much, but I'm just going to get around any bright areas. Your eyes are drawn to the brightest area in the picture, typically. So I'm going to darken up some of those bright areas so that it doesn't take away from my beautiful subjects. Okay, so there's before, there's after. That looks good. I'm just doing it very quick and rough. So I can do any of that there. Also, let's say you need to add shadowing somewhere. Maybe you need to darken the lash line. There's a million things that you can use your dodge burn for. Okay, so once I've got that, then what I do is I'm going to run my some of my hazes. So I like to always run I Got Your Matte, which is just a matte haze. It gives it a nice, beautiful, let me show you, before, after, just a really beautiful matte feel. If it's too much, of course you can take it down. I can also go back to that dodge burn layer before, because I just realized like their eye lines are pretty dark. So I'm going to actually dodge the eye line and brighten it up just a little bit, so I can actually see the lashes. But this is where my dodge burn tool, again, comes in handy, and it's super important to have ready at my fingertips on hand. So there we go. So that's better. You can see their eyes a little bit better. I'm gonna dodge under the chin. Beautiful. I love shadows, but they have to have the right balance. So there's before, there's after. Okay, so I've got your matte. I ran that. And then you can run whatever hazes you want to. I have the Sweet Frost matte. It's kind of a cool toned, kind of a bluish, purplish toned haze. It's beautiful on them. And then I have the Sweet Ginger haze, which is a warmer, kind of rosy tone. It's beautiful. And I actually a lot of times run both of them because I just love the combination. And then what I'll do is I'll take and group them together and then just lower the opacity so that I don't overdo it. Just, you know, I have it at 20% or something. So the last thing that I want to do real quick is add a duplicate layer, or not a duplicate layer. I'm going to add a blank layer and grab my whatever this thing's called, gradient tool. I have it selected on the first little tool, and I have it set from foreground to transparent. I'm going to select a color near them and then just add a little bit of a haze. I want it a little bit darker than that. So, and this just kind of softens the background, gives it kind of beautiful background fade kind of a thing. So that's what I'm doing. All right, so that looks good. And then I'm going to add a little mask to that and brush it off. Brush that off their skin. So I don't want the background thing to be on their skin. All right, there we go. So let's take a look at our before. Actually, I think I might add just a little bit of haze, that same haze, low opacity to the foreground a little bit. I like to do that. Just add a touch, soften the foreground just a little bit. Okay, and then the very last thing that I do before I'm completely finished is I go ahead and flatten it. Well, first I save it as a PSD because I save all my PSDs. But then when I'm ready to save it as a JPEG, I go ahead and flatten it. And then the last thing I do is run the Tack Sharp brush on. And this is great because, let me let it run. It just allows you to sharpen the areas where you want to sharpen rather the entire image. So I like being able to just sharpen certain areas as opposed to the whole image. So using a soft white brush, apply it to the details that you want to sharpen. You can do it at 100% opacity and adjust the layer here to lower it. So let's do that so you can really see what's happening. Or you can just paint it on at a low opacity. But so I'm going to sharpen. I like to sharpen the lash line, any of the details, and I'm doing it extremely sharp so you can really see the difference. But it just brings out those details. I also like to sharpen toes and fingers and hair. You know, this is super, super sharp so you can see. But if I were going to sharpen it everywhere, you could see it would sharpen the skin too much. So let me take that back off. There you go. So now I can take this, lower the opacity of it just to where I want it. So I'm going to make sure I'm at 100%. So here's before. I'm going to just bring up the opacity. It's too much. Come on, computer. Catch up with me. Okay. So before, after, and I just have it at like 30, 40%, somewhere around in there. Let me zoom out just a touch. So look at the hairline and stuff. So there's before, or not the hairline, the eyeline. And then here's after. And so that's it. And then I'll go ahead and flatten it and save it as a JPEG. So let's take a look then at our final image. So here is before. And then I did a little liquefy to the hat, that's why it changes. And then here's the after. I'll show you one more time. Before, after. So I love how that turned out, and you can see that I used only the Baby Road hand editing essentials, and I was able to create a very artistic yet not overdone image. So there you go.